All righty. Wow, the lighting. Okay. We're going to do our best here with the lighting. It is a rainy, feels very blurry. Oh, it was just my actual camera. All right. It has been a while. Okay, show activity. Been a little bit since I've been live, so I'm going to give some people some moments to get on here. The lighting's actually way better than I was anticipating, so that's wonderful. I do have my little um, desk lamp right here. But yeah, whoever's on, if you can say hi just to make sure everything's working, that you can hear me. I'm actually using newer uh, equipment, a newer headphone set. So let me know if it's on, if you can hear me. Um, yeah, and we can get going with questions and whatnot. And I always think, because I can see when people start getting on, but the chat's delayed. Okay, yes. Woo, can you hear me, Magda? The key question. Can everyone hear? Is the mic on? Is this thing on? Okay, cool. Whew. It's actually so much nicer too. These overall headphones, and look at the contrast here, the light and the dark. How's everyone doing? I know in some places it's evening Sunday, and other places I don't know. I mean, for me right now it's 10 a.m. on a Sunday. What's everyone up to these days? It feels like it's been so long. Oh, 7 p.m. Wow. Thanks, Richard. Nothing like my kind of wool-ish light hoodie in the Pacific Northwest. Um, I think today it's 47, which my Fahrenheit Celsius, let's see, I'm going to guess in Celsius that's about 6. I have a friend in New Zealand who I feel like it's a game. I'm like always try to interpret the weather, and I've gotten pretty good at it, but not great. Oh, it's so nice to see all of y'all. It's been so long. Yesterday, I sent an email out to just kind of say I was coming on live today and just like, hey, I'm still here. I'm taking a page from what I share with y'all all the time, which is, sometimes you just gotta, I guess for me, like the fear of letting go, I had to really confront, and not letting go permanently, but like letting go of what I thought I was needing to do and which had gotten me to where I am, and let it go and kind of surrender, go deep, kind of rearrange, let some stuff go, and then come back into it. And so some of that is like kind of breaking habits. So I had a couple weeks of some very uncomfortable, revealing, but ultimately evolving or, growth opportunities. So you know how those can be filled with a lot. So yeah, um, but that's what's been happening the past couple weeks, um, as well as literally getting some support to help me become better at what I'm doing so I can best get y'all the message and share in the best possible way I can. So yeah, it's been a lot of stuff going on. So then even thinking about it, it was almost too, I felt like I don't really remember most of the movie, but Alice in Wonderland, isn't there a point in the movie where she's like kind of spiraling into, I don't know, like a circular thing? That's kind of how I felt. But I do feel like there are moments like that where everything feels like, what am I even doing? I don't know anything. And that's not a bad thing. It can be really scary and uncomfortable, but the more you do it, the better you get at it. So yeah. So I know in my posts I know Magna, you love belief. Anytime belief changing, you're like, yes, which I love. Me too. But also doubt. And somebody had also asked for us to, I don't know that song, the Mock Turtles song. I'll have to give it a go, Richard. Thank you for the suggestion. Maybe that's where I'll spend the rest of my Sunday. But what was it? Oh yeah, and then also the light topic of guilt and shame. I had on the agenda. Alice in Wonderland. I see. So you're quoting the thing I just quoted, but since I don't know it very well, I'm lost in my own quote. But anyway, oh Sweden, wow, hello. Um, that's one country I really am excited to visit. I got really close last summer in Norway, but not close enough. So I'm also very excited. One thing I love about visiting other places, not only just seeing different cultures and experiencing everything that way. But pastries, I love pastries and baked goods. So I feel like Sweden can bring some very delightful, sweet creations into my world and expand that part of me. Oh my gosh, Amsterdam, yes, that's another place. It's on my list. It would be really fun one day as the channel keeps growing to see y'all in person. Like honestly, sometimes when I'm like writing back or responding to messages and whatnot, like I have that like, oh, like it's almost like I can't wait to see you in person. Like that's just a fact. Okay, fine. You know what? If I must, I must. If I have to go to Austria too, that's the cross I bear. But yeah, all things travel. I don't know if y'all are into astrology, but I have a lot of Sagittarius, Sag moon. So me and traveling is very important for my own internal world, and it helps me a lot to, I guess, understand myself in some ways. Also, if you're really into astrology, my Pluto is in my seventh house. So how I relate to others helps me understand myself more. And what better way to meet new people that I've never. Oh, Capricorn. We need earth energy and that drive and organization and leadership. Capricorn is the father of the zodiac. So thank you, Richard. But like that's the one thing about astrology is, the sun is just, it's like an iceberg, right? That's the part you can see and we know based on your birthday. But there are so many other things that could be going on. Like I was born April 3rd, but I have a Sag moon. I have a Venus in Taurus. So a lot of other things could be happening. Um, but yeah, you could have it. I knew somebody one time who had like most of their stuff in Capricorn. Oh, nice. 5 times Leo. My mom is a Leo. My girlfriend has Leo moon, so I love playful Leo energy. Okay. And if y'all have any questions, I am here. I've got my coffee. I've got water. Oh, I love it. Just diving right in. Do you think we can overcome our natal astrology? Well, my personal perspective is it's not something to overcome, it's something to work with. Now, every zodiac sign has, we'll say, shadow, light, and shadow. So, I mean, maybe if you give me a little bit more of why you don't like it. I mean, I have a lot of Aries in my chart: Aries Sun, Aries Mars, Aries Mars, Aries Mercury. I'm an Aries rising, so the impatience and impulsivity, it can be annoying to me. So I could see it in that way, but and also too, like your astrology chart is not like, all right, well, here you go. You can't do anything about it. It's more of a way to understand yourself more and your own unique expressions of those placements. And also too, of all the aspects, right? Where your sun and your moon are, how they interact, where you know, and if you do have some more challenging placements, Pluto in your seventh house is considered a more challenging placement. I know there are other more challenging placements, but ultimately, I believe the reason I'm on YouTube is because of my Pluto in my seventh house. It has been the source of so much pain in my life. Getting in relationships, I attract a lot of Plutonian people, but at that time, it was a lot of destruction, a lot of chaos, a lot of intensity. I mean, I'm going to talk more about it in future videos, but like, because I don't think I've expressed like how miserable my life was when it came, because my whole life was revolved around relationships. I mean, I feel like a lot of my Olympic pursuit, yes, I feel like I want to do something, go towards big goals in life, but a lot of it was earning worth for relationships. Maybe if I'm an Olympian, someone will like me, someone will want to be in a relationship with me. However, going into the depth of that pain, which, harder placements, in my opinion, are, you know, kind of show a little bit more where the wounds are. Going into it has allowed me to heal it more and use that intensity of relations to basically help relate to other people and help other people find their way out of that and let them know, hey, there's a different way. I mean, I've shown up. I have been the person in the movie where I show up. I had too much to drink, knocking at people's door. It was one time, thankfully, But like, that's a low situation. That is not a proud moment for me. However, having compassion for myself in that moment and understanding the transformation that I needed to have in order to, um, get to the light of that placement. Okay. Sorry, now I'm reading. I'm like, oh, for example, I would love being the Leo type, but I have zero placements there, not even asteroids. All my planets are in private houses, but I wish to have a 10th house placement, house planet type of life. Well, I mean, also too, why not? You don't have to have a Leo placement to embrace that Leo energy. Leo could that Leo. Do you have anything in your fifth house? First house, like, do you have anything in your fifth house? I'll start there before I ask like 16 questions before you can answer one. Um, I, a colleague asked what my plans are for the weekend, and I surprised myself saying, "Oh, no, that's so wonderful." Yes. And again, like, I'm still trying to figure out what's going to be the best, like, to do this more consistently so we can have a sense of community, or even creating like, um, since I've been in my pursuit to become a better, basically learning how to be better at making videos and all this. They have a Discord server. So like, thinking about that for like community. So I'm brainstorming to how to better bring the community consistently together and taking that responsibility, which I see that I wasn't quite doing that before. So I try to be as transparent as I can, and will continue to do that with y'all. But yeah, I'm so glad you have that feeling, because I honestly was like, oh my gosh, we get to hang out today. This is so exciting. Okay. So you have your Leo in Mercury. That's huge. That is, the way you think and communicate. So I think astrology is only a bonus. It helps you see parts of yourself that you might not be aware of. So maybe it gives you more permissions, but it's never a you can't do that, right? Like, you might have an inclination that you want to go that way, but if you don't have any Leo, there's no rules in the universe saying that you can't embrace that within yourself. What is outside of you, if you really love like being around Leo people, the only reason you see that and it lights you up is because it's inside you too. You cannot have that feeling unless it's inside of you. And if it's inside of you, you can have that without the outside, or you can contribute to communities wherever, friendships or whatever, with that like energy as well. You can be the most Leo. I don't know what your sign is, but like, say you're a Virgo, you could be the most Leo Virgo there is. Like, it's just a placement, not a like limitation or prison sentence kind of a thing. Does that make sense? Does that help at all? That's how I see it. Is also, where do I need to grow? What can help me right now? How can I tap into that more of myself? So yeah. What other questions do we have um, to start us off this morning? Oh my gosh. I mean, Sag Sun, come on. Wait, Aquarius Sun, Sag Moon. Okay, Sag Moon as well. Like, that is wonderful energy. I mean, I think really, to be fair, I think every energy is going to be wonderful. But Aquarius, like, air sign, which I always thought it was a water sign because it was a water bearer. That's still very confusing to me. I need to look at like how that came into origin. But that's beautiful. So you're Aquarius Sun, Sag Moon, and Leo Mercury. Like, Sag, a lot of playful fun. I mean, this is coming from a Sag moon, so how much bias can I be? I'm like, life of the party, just the one you really want to know. As I'm like, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I would go through and listen to people talk about your astrologies. I'm just going to put that in there, placements, but and just like learn like to love that part of you, like, because I think you're loving parts of yourself outside of you, and when you learn that it's inside of you, that will help you with self-love, and also not need it or feel like because what you're talking about too is the energy of jealousy, right? Comparison. They have it, I don't. Somebody has something I want, so that's going to be a deeper, what a perfect transition into belief shifting and increasing your self-awareness, because that energy feels very real. If I had that placement, I would be better, or I'd feel better, or I'd have what I needed. But if you take that back to like a childhood dynamic of like, oh, okay, did an authority have what I wanted, or it was kept from me? Or, for me personally, it was like, they have it, we don't. Those people, not us, specifically with money, and it wasn't an ill thing or like a malice, but there was a separation there. And that separation, like structure, can be placed on anything. It could be like, oh, those people have money, but we're not like them. We're better. Or like, oh, they have that placement, I don't. So again, that's comparison. And when you do that, that's actually self-rejection. So to really, Alice in Wonderland is our theme today. Am I right? Like we are going down that rabbit hole. And again, I don't know the details of the movie. I don't remember them. So I'm like, she chooses one, we take the one, we're going in. But so the one thing I would ask you to do is, even though you feel like, and again, your feelings are valid, so we want to honor that. However, what is really going on? Am I comparing? Oh, I don't feel like I'm good enough. Oh, interesting. That I'm actually rejecting myself and saying what I have isn't good, what they have is good. Wow. That's literally self-abandonment. And the only reason I know this is because this is what my Pluto in my seventh house has taught me. And I'll probably to the end of my life, have this and like deeper and deeper iterations of understanding of it. But after talking it through with you, I think that might be where to put that energy, using that Sag Moon investigatory hat and diving into that. And everyone here listening right now can also like, oh, if I had that, then I would be okay. So how I am right now is bad. So you're saying no to you. So that energy, you're getting a reflection of who you are being. So you'll find people who are acting that same way you are toward yourself. This is where increasing that awareness can like be a game changer, because so much is happening outside of your awareness where it feels like it's only coming from within you. Or sorry, it's only coming from outside of you. Okay, so I hope that helps. Ask more questions if you'd like. How do I deal with haters? Well, it's a great question. I really feel like the biggest, like, I don't want to say hater, but like the biggest bully that we'll deal with is ourselves. Because when we deal with our own inner bully, when people say stuff outside of ourselves, like the urge to interact, like you'll know your truth, right? So that's something and again, I wrote this last night in my email, but like really letting go, like being aware of like, oh, these little internal messages, but they're echoes. They're not coming from ourselves. But if you feel, so for instance, when I first got on, like not knowing like, oh, is this helping people? Who am I to record a video and people watch it and maybe value it? Who am I? I'm not worthy of that, or I'm not on that level. But sorry, I got distracted reading. I was trying to read and then talk, and I'm like, that is not a good idea. But let me get back on my train of thought. Oh, um, basically, the point of what I'm trying to say is that when you get more aware of the echoes from early on, which are your environment, right? Like, oh, we're not good enough, or we don't have that, or they're better than us. Then we carry that and we're trying to prove it wrong. Well, it's not true. That's somebody else's opinion, but we're trying to live our life trying to prove that this is wrong. So we have kind of this like view of ourselves. So if somebody else talks about it, you're like, oh, stop saying that, or I'm going to prove. But again, you're holding this, because if somebody says like, oh, you don't know what you're saying, okay, I that's their opinion, but like I can give you, if you want to talk about it, I'll tell you the reasons why I believe these things and my life experience, how this radically changed my life. So I don't have to prove it to them. And also realizing people project. So, but if you can stay in yourself and just breathe through it and not be defensive or react, and obviously boundaries. We're not saying, oh, doormat time. But if you can just listen and say, maybe that's something that they're projecting onto me, maybe, or is this true? Oh, no, I don't feel that applies to me. Oh, maybe they're just having their own experience. So if you can understand that people outside of you have their own stuff too, and projection is pretty intense, but when you know yourself, you can better understand when people are projecting and have boundaries and protect yourself, keep yourself safe, and also have compassion of like, okay, well, good luck over there, and I'm going to go do my own thing. So I hope that helps. Does that make more sense, Magda, about that? Okay. John M., great to see you. In manifesting, how can you develop a greater inner degree of acceptance of a manifestation, allowing of it? Well, I'm thinking this is the tone of like, develop a greater degree of acceptance. I mean, what it like, because I think first of it, man, my words, where are they today? Alice in Wonderland. When in doubt, just remember that's our theme, incidental theme for the day. But what I'm reading this to be is how can I feel worthy of my manifestation? Is that accurate? I'll give a couple seconds and see. But I'm going to um, go off that being it. It's like I feel like I saw the other day there was somebody streaming and they had sound effects and I was like, that is amazing. Can you imagine if I took like I didn't record a video for a month and I'm like, guys, the reason is because I'm perfecting my sound system and sound effects for lives. I mean, it's not a terrible idea. Definitely would be entertaining for at least me, and I think at least two of y'all, maybe. Okay, I haven't gotten a response, so I don't. Again, I know that the chat's delayed because sometimes nothing will happen, and then all of a sudden, like six will come up. Okay. Oh, okay. So, how can you develop a greater degree of acceptance and manifesting and allow it? What I read is, how can I feel like I'm worthy? Well, we're naturally worthy. We are born into ourselves, right? Then we learn who we are and we follow that program, we follow that conditioning. And even when we leave that early on environment, this reminds me a lot of that idea of like if you train an animal like an elephant, I think that they've said like they tie it to something that they can't break away from, right? They can't get away initially, but eventually they could tie it to a chair and that elephant could go free. But internally they are saying, no, I can't go anywhere. This is where I have to stay. So you've really got to go deeper. The impulse, and again, like I'm in it with y'all of like, okay, got to remember, Dr. Joe's big on this to change matter with, I want to say spirit, but that's not the word he uses. Um, but anyway, I'm just going to go with it. But rather than focusing on the outside and trying to force, realizing, okay, what is this? What could this be reflecting inside of me? What could maybe I'm not aware of right now? Maybe there's a worthiness thing. Like, why don't I feel worthy? Where did I ever get that idea that I had to earn it? Think about this. A little baby crying, born, comes home, little baby, everything's fine. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, little baby starts screaming and they are crying because they are hungry. And they're saying, hey, I need some food and I deserve it. And I am going to use my voice to get that need met, right? Now, would you say, okay, where does this baby hasn't even worked. This baby doesn't pay rent. This baby hasn't, done anything for the house. It doesn't deserve its needs to be met. It needs to earn it. It's not worthy, right? Potentially, there are people who think that way, but I think you can understand the point that, yeah, obviously, that baby was born worthy of having its needs met. That baby was born worthy of being treated well and having diaper changes and food and sleep. And if it needs to burp and all the stuff that it needs, it doesn't have to earn it. Why? Because it's inherently worthy. But taking that message and obviously the complications of a human life, especially those, either dramatic or subtle, traumational. God, I'm making up with so many words today. Um, in I'm trying to say real traumatic relations, but relational traumas. I'm a bit dyslexic sometimes, literally, but which helps to see words differently and come up with the video ideas actually. But so I would ask you, how can you develop it? What can you let go of? Like even in the structure of this, there's a separate the energy I feel and even your wording of it. This is unconscious, and I'm just gonna say it. But there's like a distance from even the word worthy, right? Develop a greater degree of acceptance and allow it. How can I feel worthy, right? But there's something in you, it seems, and again, this is just my opinion from your question, that is a worthiness thing. So how can I feel worthy? I take it in, why don't I? You don't have to create worthiness. You have to let go of the ideas that lead you to believe you're not worthy. So I hope that helps. Okay, gonna move on. Oh, wow, snowy Alaska. Well, the way today's going, I'm like, it's 47 degrees. We are way too cold. We are way too close to being in the snow realm than I feel April 16th should allow. But I'm originally from Texas, so um let's see. Oh, I'm loving the more astrology talk. I'm going to read this real quick and then get to your question. I feel fascinated what draws you to Leo because it's the opposite sign of Aquarius. Any ideas what you'd like to embody from a Leo type? Perhaps it's something that helps fill you whole, helps you feel whole. That's a great question. Yeah, what is that? And where is it in me? And again, if you find it outside yourself, it is yours. It's in you. Like, period. There's a really wonderful book called The Dark Side of Light Chasers by Debbie Ford. And the whole book is about this. Like, and that also includes shadow stuff, right? For me early on, it's like, oh God, this person's so loud. God, they're so arrogant. And it really annoyed me. Like, God, who do they think they are? But at the time, that's how I was. There are parts of me that can get a lot of attention and, be boisterous and make people laugh. If that was a coping mechanism from early on, taking this responsibility that, oh, I need to make everyone happy. I need to make them feel different than they feel. So it's almost like a neurotic thing if it had gone like all the way, but I thankfully am able to be aware, but when I became aware of it in myself, I actually enjoyed it in other, like, oh, I can relate. I feel connected to you because I understand that, as opposed to judging it. Whatever you judge outside of there is actually in here. And that can help you to get deeper. And the same thing with they have it, I don't. It's going to cut the delusion that you don't have it, that you're not whole and complete, that you are missing parts, or that you were born into a different astrology chart. And maybe part of that is it's always to fully be yourself. Okay. I sometimes don't believe something and still manifest it. How does this work in your manifesting practices? Can you give an example of what that would look like? I sometimes don't believe something and still manifest it. An example would just help me to address it in the, like, I guess, a best way. How do you mean that? Like, an example of what that would look like, because that will help me tremendously understand what to share with you. Do you know, Jen, do you know your rising sign? I don't know if you said that. I'm looking for it now. Oh, and also, okay, we're back to astrology. I love it. Sometimes too, I feel like I'm eavesdropping. I'm like, they're talking to each other, but I'm watching too. Oh, Libra. Okay. I feel more eager to shine individually than in a group, for example. Okay, so here's a question. Were you told or shown, or did you have any kind of experiences where when you started to shine, you were made fun of, you were told to get in line, you were said that you can't do that? Anything like that? And potentially too, I feel too weird and shy. Compared to who? Because that's always going to be comparing. And again, unconsciously, as a kid, we have to do that. Like, how am I going to fit in? How can I, you know? But if you're like, oh, no, no, I can't shine because if I shine, they're going to see how weird I am and I'm scared that I'll be rejected. Right. But you see other people do this and you're like, oh, I want to. So potentially it is not about a placement, it's about a way of being. But we got to look at that pre-existing judgment that you either felt you had to do it's valid that you felt you had to do that. There's a reason why. But now it's holding you back, right? Because that's how you stayed safe, but now it's holding you back. So was there anything when it comes to shining, um, individually, that you experienced? Yeah, so potentially too, you could be identifying with the little girl, or sorry, I don't know, the little person um, that was shy. And yeah, I mean, I was homeschooled till I was 16, so I was full of like paralyzing moments of like, I don't know how to be. However, think of all the life experience you've had since that moment, being that little person experience, that potentially some of that shyness was just fear of not knowing how to be. But now you have a lot of life experience, so you can keep that little part of you safe. You know better now than that little part. But if the little part's like, no, 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 we don't know what's going to happen. We could get rejected. We could get abandoned if we stand out and we just don't have, that when that alarm bell goes off, specifically if you had some sort of bully dynamic or shunning, shaming, comments, uh, critical nature, something like that, which would be make you become self-aware, but not in a positive way, right? When you're self-conscious would be a better term for it. But and even that, I'm like, that's not a like consciousness you want anyway. But starting to understand it that way, because I feel that the placement of what it is, I think it's gotten a little bit cloudy, and you can own yourself more by diving into this. But thank you so much for sharing. I hope this is helpful to you and other people listening, because you can really apply. I get everyone has this element, in my opinion, of I've got to suppress this. I got to hold this back because if I'm really me, they're going to leave me. Okay, so I thought okay, I can't read today, and we're just going to go with it. I had a thought. I'll have an interview with Trump as a real estate. I don't know what that word means, like in terms of real estate. Oh, I see. Okay. Never believed this would happen, but boom, there it was. Um, because like the mind, this is another thing too, like the mind isn't manifesting like your beliefs are. So if you have a thought like, oh, that's kind of too crazy to think about, you're not necessarily believing that with the core of your existence, right? So you could just not have any pre-existing experience with something of that caliber. So you're like, wow, that's mind blowing. That's beyond my current level of understanding. I don't have experiences like that. But if your beliefs and your worthiness are open, that good things happen to you, or that it's okay, it's safe for you to experience this, nothing terrible or bad would happen if you got that. Well, what's going to supersede the thoughts is going to be your being. So even though you might have that kind of thought, it's more, I guess I see it as more about a level of experience and less about I'm not good enough to have this. Is that accurate? Okay. Hey, Joe, I harbor a tremendous amount. Um, I at first read the bottom part of good old, sorry, my mind's really funny today. I harbor a tremendous amount of doubt and shame, and I feel like I'm good enough no matter how much I achieve. Did you mean to say that you're not good enough? I just want to double check. At first, I read, I harbor a tremendous amount of good old doubt and shame. That's what my brain put, which I thought was kind of funny. But like, I also feel there's an element of humor, I guess, for me that's important. Like, here I am, that good old fashioned doubt and shame, That's, I guess, how I read it. That's why I giggled a little bit. Okay, so now I feel this is where we'd have like waiting music, like elevator music, as the interwebs communicate and get the message from y'all to me. Oh, good. I'm glad that helped. Um, but yeah, that's how what I've learned, and it's taken a long time, and that's what's so can be confusing because we can see our outside world, but our outside can help us. So like learning how to decipher the code. Yeah, I don't feel good enough no matter how much I achieve. So it's not about achieving. It's about an idea. It's about a treatment. It's about an experience where you perceived that you weren't good enough. That early on you worked really, really hard to get a connection or to get, you know, I won't say attention because I think it was going to be about a connection. which is vital to all of our experiences, our brain, formation. So if you didn't get that, it's like, oh, I gotta, it's like an endless black hole that, like, so the good part is no matter how hard, there's no correlation between work effort, achievement, and worth. Okay. What was messaged to you? What happened? What was that early on environment? Because you got to go back, but you got to use your mind now. So don't look through the eyes of your little Joe self. Look through your adult Joe's mind, like through those eyes to see those dynamics that, again, so many different things could have happened. But going back, like we are all born inherently worthy, but then we're messaged somewhere along the way. Either we perceive it, which is just as impactful as the actual experience, or somebody actually is like, oh, what do you think that something good's gonna happen if you don't work your fingers to the bone? So if you want to share a little bit more what that early on experience was like, or even why you feel you needed to achieve, right? Because there's some sort of message that gets in there of like, if I achieve, and then you go down that thing, that path, and you're like, God, no matter what I do, it's not shifting this feeling, because it's not about that. It's about what formed that idea. That's where you get the relief, not in the achievement. The achievement is the illusion. I can't seem to get into the state of what I desire. Okay. I'm trying to think. Can you give a little bit more context as to what it is you desire? And then we can break it on down. I mean, having an interview with anybody at like that well known, or even people around, like that's a big deal. Um, which I can only imagine how bizarre that was pre-politics stuff, which we won't get into. But so yeah, does that help you see about like that you can have a thought like, huh, wouldn't it be crazy if, or that would be so wild, or that will never happen. It's not like how you are being, it's just kind of an idea. And that also gives you kind of evidence that ideas are just kind of out there. You can pick up on them, but they're not the ones driving the bus. Um, hey, is it Carolina? Okay, great question. I'm waiting to hear back from Joe so I can dive deeper a bit on what I was saying there, but I would love to answer that. Carolina's question. Again, if I say y'all's name wrong, my apologies. Not sure if you already answered, but is it possible to change a belief without knowing where it came from, but knowing what it is? Spoiler alert, yes, but I'll get into more of what that is in just a second. Okay. Oh, thank you for those kind words. Keep up your work. You're such a light. That's really helpful to me right now because, yeah, personally, my best friend right now, she's very funny. And she came and visited. And then for whatever reason, I don't even remember why, she just kept saying for me, but then she'd say emotionally. So every time I hear somebody in conversation say for me, in my brain, I say emotionally, like just inside. And every time I say for me, I have to say emotionally. So when you said, keep up your work, you're such a light, I was going to say for me. And then so I wanted y'all in on what was happening in my head emotionally. But honestly, for me, now you can hear it too. It's been a lot of letting go of old beliefs and like scrubbing out some deep parts of my psyche. And like, it can be scary to say, okay, how I was how I was grown to believe, which is an interesting way of thinking about it, how I was grown to believe, and those who I really care about, how they still believe, that's not going to work for me, and that's okay. And like really letting that go can feel really scary. And if you have abandonment issues, right, let's get those hands up. It can feel like if you do that, you'll be all alone. So letting those go, which is what I've been doing, it really helps to know that this channel is helping because it really gives me like, okay, gotta be responsible and do the best I can with sharing this message on the channel and in life in general, but really giving me a little more gusto to let go. So thank you for sharing that. Emotionally, see, I hope it's in y'all's head too, and you can just on comments from me. Emotionally, I like this video. um, okay, let's see. Going back to this. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm just going to go to Carolina while I wait for Joe if you want to share. And you don't have to. I mean, we can go as deep or as, more big picture as y'all need. Um, let's see, not sure. Okay, so how can you change a belief without knowing where it came from? It's not necessarily about that exact moment. It's about the pattern, because the moment then causes a pattern. And when you can start to become aware of the pattern, then you can start to understand, okay, what is it that, this pattern, right? What is it that I believe about myself? And that's how you can get to that. And then seeing with your adult eyes, if you had those early on memories. And sometimes too, when you do this work, awarenesses will come up. Like, wait a second, I didn't even remember that. But, especially if you're meditating, taking quiet time, can you turn the world off so you can listen to yourself? And I say that to y'all as much as me. But there are reasons a lot of times why you don't remember the origin, how something originated. Gosh, words are funny. Anyway, maybe I should drink some more coffee, a little go-go juice. But how can you just understand that dynamic so you can understand yourself more, so you can start to release of that? Because if something really intense happens, you're a kid, it's too much for you. So just the same as like, it's like having a big box and you take it to the basement and then you put it there and you're like, I don't have the tools. I don't have anything. I don't have a place to put this. I gotta put it in my unconscious. And then unconsciously you're continuing to repeat. That's one of the painful things, in my opinion, about life, is that you have these early on deep wounds and then we repeat them unconsciously, and it makes us think that this is who we are. Because if I wasn't this way, these people wouldn't treat me this way, not understanding that you have that magnet and they have that magnet, and the people who are outside of that pattern exist, where they will help give you that loving supportive relationship or treat you with respect or whatever the dynamic may be. They exist, but you've got to be aware of the pattern and start breaking the pattern in the moment, which is where, when I talk about ABC, which I'm also going to be talking a lot more about, different strategies you can do to help with those traumatic responses. I've been reading this book, and this is a bookmark my niece made me. How cute is this? Okay. It says, how cute is that? And she even has her little, she has a brand stamp, like amazing. Anyway, but I've been reading this book, which is all about like how trauma is stored in the body and how we can release it. A breeze of a read. But I'm going to be sharing with that as it kind of downloads and I can synthesize it in a bit different way. But yeah, does that make sense, Carolina? Okay, wait, hang on. Okay, so I'm getting to your second part. That makes sense. Once we have the awareness, is the next step then releasing the emotions attached to it and consciously choosing the new story and affirming visualizing? So yes, it's going to be aware in the moment. So for me, emotionally, can you hear how this would just be like, I can't speak the same way. For me, my dynamic was about self-abandonment. So early on, and still, again, not anywhere near the level of what it used to be, but it used to be, I'm dating somebody or I'm with somebody and they don't text, or maybe again, they go out and it's late and I'm like on social media, like, do they still like me? Are they still with me? Do they find somebody else? Understanding that's my own rejection. So again, it took years. It doesn't have to take you years. It took me years, but then starting to become, oh, I'm self-rejecting right now. So the first part of that is the awareness, where there is a mental part of like understanding, oh, okay, I keep doing this, and whatever your dynamic may be, oh, I don't feel good enough. I feel like everyone's going to reject me unless I work really hard. But understanding that when I started getting anxious, when I started to compare, that's one half of the jealousy dynamic. The second half is suspicion or distrust. So some people want to go close, some people want to push away in order to stay safe. So understanding my dynamic was anxiety and comparison. Oh, I'm self-rejecting. So understanding what the dynamic is and then getting aware of it in the moment, breathing, because what was happening for me emotionally, oh God, I can't get away from it. Okay, what was happening for me was I was in that dynamic. I started to be anxious. They're going to leave. They're going to leave. I wasn't consciously thinking this, but I had to be aware of myself. That was happening. They would leave. I was not secure in myself. And I was using that relationship for so much stability or worth or everything, really. So they would leave. I'd start getting anxious. Oh, do they like them more? What can I do to compete with this other person? Even though I was only in my head, but that I had to start, oh, I'm in jealousy. Oh, jealousy is self-abandonment. So that's what it looked like for me. Oh, I'm abandoning. Okay. So what will happen is that original impulse or interpretation, oh no, I'm getting anxious. They're going to leave me. There's going to be like a physiological response, a trigger. Why? Because like this book has shared early on in that moment for me, I won't say it again, but the formation of that energy for me of the abandonment of not having my needs met, of having to fight to get it or, compete or whatever, there was a physiological response my body needed to do, and if you can't get away, it kind of gets stuck. And that's what trauma is in the body, is your body isn't able to keep itself safe and have the physiological response that's needed. And so it just gets stuck. Specifically, if you have fear and then experience it. And one of the examples in the book they talk about, or he talks about, this is Dr. Peter Levine. He talks about, because he talks about the animal world, right? He's trying to get to the bare function of us and them, like, because animals can get in a fight and then shake it off, right? You see dogs, this happens all the time. They just do the shake and then they're like, whoo, let's get on with our day, right? But what happens for humans is that we don't, it gets stuck. And so just like think about the for me emotionally thing, right? It just gets stuck in there. Obviously that's a really silly example, but if that echo is fear and panic and I can't get away and something bad's going to happen, when you go back to my example, I hope that this is, I know I'm kind of going all over the place. I wish I had my dry eraser, but anyway. So I had that interpretation. Oh no, they're going to leave me. Oh no, anxious. Okay. So my body is feeling something bad. I'm in threat. There is a perceived threat. So physiologically, my body's going to respond like I'm 6 years old, 5 years old. So one of the big things here is to breathe, to start to regulate your nervous system. So you let your body know with your higher level of awareness, nope, I'm safe now. I'm safe. So it's not just like, oh, nope, I don't feel that. It's gone. You've got to really honor the energy that's still there, but not let it dictate you, but really get better strategies, which I'm going to do my best to bring you everything. Like the Dr. Peter Levine talks about VOO, literally just saying VOO, because the reason why that's going to stimulate your vagal nerve, which helps tell your body, nope, we're safe. Nope, we're safe here, because it's going to help override that we're in panic, we're in danger, we're in panic. Now, when you've settled down from that trigger, right, and you're making that new choice, the more you do that, the more you feel safe, the more you can literally restructure your mind, and that will be more that default way of being. So, okay, so from my understanding, every time in the moment we get triggered and are aware of it and choose to show up differently is when change, absolutely. And honoring the physiological part of it. It's not just mind. The somatic work, which is, what happens with the traumas. And again, those could be very intense and obvious physical, assaults and different things in childhood. It could also be silent things you didn't get. And it could look more of like a calm home, but if you're not getting your emotional need met and, different things are happening for, discipline or something, then like spankings, right? That was a part of my life. But when I look at through a different lens, it's like, wow, that was not a great message for me. I love my parents and I'm thankful for the upbringing they gave me. And that wasn't good for me. It still hurts my heart to think about. So, how can you honor both? But be with yourself. But the big thing there, Carolina, about everything is really focusing on the somatic aspects, staying in your body. And that's going to look a lot of different ways for a lot of different situations. So that's why it's good to have a tool belt. I think I'm doing it right through then because I meditate and breathe through my emotions, and then I let my mind know I don't need to be protected anymore because my new story is this, and then I insert new. Yeah, and then also in a different place, processing those emotions, because bringing the body and mind together to process that pain, seeing that you didn't deserve it, seeing the truth of it, that it wasn't your fault, that you didn't cause it, that whatever that person's actions towards you had nothing to do with you. Like, it makes me angry a lot of times because I guess like I feel like I'm trying to fight for all of our, like, the inner child, because I'm like, no, like there's, and again, like probably myself as well, but there are so many brilliant things about everyone here today that y'all might not honor or be aware of, or there's hurts or perspectives of yourself that your sweet little mind, you're just being a kid, and some adults, and God bless them, had their own dysfunction and they didn't have the tools to heal their shit, and so it got projected onto you, and you thought, oh, okay, I guess this is the way it is, they know better, and then you carry that with you your whole life. And I'm like, the hell we will in this community. Let's get the dumpster, because we're throwing all that trash away and not staying angry at other people, honoring and processing the experiences you've been through, bringing your body and your mind together so that that energy can transmute. Because think about, is it Newton? I always said it was Einstein, but I was like, I don't think that's right. Oh God, now I just lost the whole point. I've lost the plot. But I think it's Newton, Einstein, but the idea that energy is neither created or destroyed, but it can be transmuted. So you take that energy of the pain and all that kind of stuff, you reprocess it and you heal it, alchemize it, and now that wound comes to be wisdom, and that wisdom is a superpower. That was my bow. Anyway, I hope that that helps. And yes, meditation, breath can help you elongate the gap. And if Magna's still here, mind the gap, right? You got to mind the gap. Minding the gap will change your life. Meditating and breath work can help you increase that ability to sit in the gap and make the new choice. Okay, back to you, Joe. I finally gotten, I mean, not finally because of you, finally because of the interwebs. I don't think I got a lot of attention from my parents. I just remember playing by myself a lot. Even at my babysitter's house, I was just building block stars by myself. I bet that's where it came from. Well, I mean, think about that. You didn't get a lot of attention from your parents. Like, part of their responsibility is to nurture and grow. Like, you have needs. And again, you could say we have soul contracts. We can get into that in a later point. I'm neither here nor there. But in the sense of, like, in this lifetime, you did not ask to be born, right? So there's a responsibility of adults to nurture a child. But unfortunately, it's just a lot of times, and again, they have their own stuff. They're unique souls. They went through a lot. They might have not have had tools. And so they did it the way that they thought it should be done. Keep you physically safe, right? So they're not giving you attention and they're focused on money or whatever, right? That could be like, I'm doing well, but I'm doing well by my son to keep him safe. And I realized I didn't ask your pronouns. Living in the Pacific Northwest, now I'm like paranoid because coming from Texas. So I'm like, I don't know how to do this. So I'm doing the best I can. But, you know, they could be thinking we're doing a great job, because maybe in their experience, they didn't get attention and they had no money. I don't know. But for you, fundamentally, a attachment, a secure attachment, apart from any performances, achievements, you getting attention, you getting connection because you're Joe, because you're on this planet and you deserve it and you're worthy of it because you exist. It is a birthright. So holding those two things together, man, that's really disappointing. I needed this and they didn't give it to me. And it led me to believe that I had to perform or work for it, because if I didn't work for it, then my bucket wasn't going to get filled. And now realizing, wow, that's not actually how it happens. So how can you honor that? And you might be mad, you might have a lot of negative feelings, and that's okay to process. So in the end, you can say, wow, you did the best you could. You did maybe good things, like you provided things, and I appreciate that. And there's other things I needed that I didn't get, and you can mourn that. But again, processing, getting real with it, pulling out what's in the shadow. Oh, okay, I see this now. Because Carl Jung, until you make conscious what is unconscious, it will literally, again, I'm paraphrasing now, but it drives the bus, right? So that little Joe who doesn't get any attention. Maybe you looked, and maybe your parents they worked a lot. You thought, oh, okay, I want to play their game, right? If I work and I achieve, then you're trying to speak their language basically, because you're emotionally relating through them. And I think that I've only talked about it in my course, but I call it EEL, emotional echolocating, where you're literally relating to yourself through the other person. But that's a big one that I'll probably do a video about. How do I perform at my peak? I'm in a tennis league and I have a match next week. How do I put myself in the mindset where I can play my best game? Giving yourself permission to play the best game, because if you're focused on the outcome, you're not in the now moment. If you focus on, okay, a relaxed Joe, a Joe who's given permission to highly succeed or maybe flop, giving yourself that full experience of it, I think can help in releasing it. Okay, I love me if I flop and if I never connect the racket to the ball. And I love me if I ace them and the other person isn't able to even return anything. Because I guess you've got to learn to connect with yourself outside the performance. Like, what's the purpose of you having a good game? Is it to get attention? Because the more you can break that connection, the more it allows you the ability to play your best game. Anyway, okay. Okay, let's see. My mom was definitely a piece of work. Don't worry about pronouns. I need to a lot of work on myself with meditation, affirmations. Yeah, and then where's the best place to start right now? And everyone has stuff, right? So realizing, Joe, I highly recommend a book called Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. That book helped me understand myself and like what I needed. And like, oh, I didn't get that. Like, I thought this is, I think, a lot of our distortions that I'm just like realizing as I'm saying it. But I thought the way I was brought up was the way you're supposed to be brought up. And y'all might think like, well, yeah. And I'm not saying it wasn't. You have your own soul and your own experience. However, the way you were brought up does not mean that you got what you needed. And anybody, think about a malnourished person. If their body's not getting the nutrients they need, there are repercussions, right? And so if it's an emotional thing, there's a dysfunction, it can be healed. But the first part of that is awareness that it's out of whack. You're not getting what you need, and you're able to get what you need. Okay. So Judy, let's see. Okay, let's see. Acceptance and attachment style work and where things come from makes me angry because I feel the urge to tell my ex, for example, what the issue is instead of fully focusing on my part and what I did wrong. Well, for one, there's no wrong or right. That's one thing that can help out of this. It's a little bit, let's see, it's triggering me and making me angry so much that it distracts me from my own issues and wanting to shout out at what they need to work on, so to speak. So again, I'm saying this from a place of love. I'm saying this also because I've done it. And I might not understand all the way, but I'm just going to say it because this last part, like if you're focused on somebody else and what they're doing wrong or what they need to work on, that is also and again, if you can get away from the word jealousy as we know it in society of like, oh, you're stealing my man, I'm jealous, or they're going to go out, I'm jealous. Just like detach from that. Jealousy, which at the root is self-abandonment. If you can understand that there's a superiority, inferiority aspect of it. So potentially, and for me speaking, I would try to do that to other people because it made me feel superior. I know what you're doing wrong. This is what you need to do. But it did distract me from my own shit. But it also, I was still self-abandoning in the idea that if I had this awareness of somebody else, then I was superior. But what it comes from my experience, was a place of feeling inferior. So really getting honest of like, oh, maybe, for me, it was like, oh, and also to the anger thing is something I want to touch on in a little bit, but I found, oh, I want to feel like I'm over them, because then that makes me feel better. And then I feel a little bit better about myself. And then I feel a little bit more worthy. I don't feel as worthless, but you're back where you start. So everyone's on their own process, not judging yourself. You're like, oh, okay, I'm angry. That's the part two I want. Okay. Angry. Learning about this. Okay. I'm trying to understand this a little bit better. Let's see. So I'm not necessarily sure where the anger comes from. Maybe part of it is like a justice of like showing like you should be treated better, but that could also be wrapped up into like, look, see, I am worthy potentially. I don't know. But I think a big thing, even if nothing else, if you don't touch on the anger part right now, so it could be inner anger, like anger actually directed toward yourself. Frustration, I'm not sure. But the one thing I would say about the whole thing is boom, boom, boom. And I mean, I would catch myself a while ago. I don't even remember the time frame, a year and a half, maybe two. And this was totally unconscious. And I'd be like scrolling on social media. And I found myself, I'm like putting down subtly. It was very sneaky, but like judging whatever degree other people's stuff, because then it made me feel better. But it was such a cheapening, because I'm giving myself my power outside of myself by saying I need to be superior to them. So I'm totally self-abandoning to do that. So, oh, okay, good try, but that's not helping me. So I hope that helps. Okay. Allie had said something up here, I thought. Great questions. Oh, I've been doing the inner child work and look at myself as a little girl. So is so difficult and painful. I almost feel ashamed of her. Well, I mean, why? Um, that could be through the lens of your adult caretakers. Um, were they very critical? Did they act like you as a little girl should know better? Because that sounds, if that's the case, if your adults treated you like you were supposed to know better, that's an emotionally immature parent or caregiver, because like obviously a little kid doesn't know anything, and they need the guidance and help. But again, power trip. Like that's why all these dynamics are important to understand, because then you can start saying, oh, maybe, Allie, for you, if you did grow up in an environment with a critical parent and you're echoing that energy towards yourself of what you grew up in, potentially, if an adult is trying to be superior to a child, that is somebody who doesn't feel very good about themselves. Because for me, when I see a little kid, I want to like go to their level. I want them to feel good. I want the, are you okay? Do you need help? Like this is, I'll be in like Costco, and there was a little boy the other day, like he looked a little lost. And so I just kind of kept an eye, because like as a community, regardless if you know them or not, like, is this little kid who doesn't know the world, are they okay? Because I think it's our responsibility as adults to watch out for the vulnerable. So, does that resonate at all, Allie, about that for the caretaker? I'm curious. Okay. Why do I feel the urge to prove myself? Does that mean every time? I think it does. To prove myself right, to feel accepted. Well, if you're wanting to prove, I would imagine it comes from a place that you have something to prove, right? So there's like a chip. Like, so again, I would imagine that you're relating to yourself through somebody else's eyes. Your mom, your dad, your environment early on, telling you you're not good enough. Maybe they criticized you, like, why are you doing that? What is that about? That's silly. And like potentially early on, you trying to explain yourself. Again, that is over explaining is a people pleaser thing, which is a trauma response. Um, But potentially where the coping mechanism came from is, I want to explain this to you because if you understood, then we could connect. But now it's kind of like you have to prove it and like constantly defend. So you kind of keep attracting people who criticize or put down. Is that, again, it's hard without more information. So I'm just kind of like trying as best I can. But let me know, both Allie and Pinky, if, okay, okay. Allie, I wish I could hug you. I wish I could hug everyone, honestly. I really appreciate y'all sharing and being open. And okay, one day there will be like an in-person event. And there's this, it would be so amazing if we had like a big space. I guess outside is a big space. But one time when it was like New Year's Eve, no, it was New Year's, yeah, Eve. So it's like already been the countdown, and it was like 1 a.m. and it was me and my two best friends, and we're walking in Austin downtown, going home, and had a great day or night. And then there was these group of people, and they're just like so jolly. And I think there was three of them. Maybe there was just two. I don't remember. Two or three people. So 5 or 6 of us. And they're like, yeah, so happy about, maybe they'd had adult beverages, but they're just like such good energy. And they're like, y'all want to do a cinnamon swirl? And we're like, okay. And this is why I'm bringing it up, because I think it'd be really fun to do together. So what you do is you all join hands. I don't know why I'm showing you my hands, but we all join hands in a straight line. And then one person on the end starts spinning so that everyone eventually wraps in and we're all hugging each other. I mean, that's goals. Okay, sorry, I got distracted on cinnamon swirls. I'm learning how all this, I'm back to you, Judy, learning how all this work, trying to be aware, and he is doing nothing and acting upon all these wounds that are so obvious to see. Okay, so also, if this is in relation to a partnership, which I think was what you're saying, they're mirrors. So one thing that can help dissolve that, because anger could be, oh, I have no power, that he has if he changed, then I would feel better. If he changed, then the relationship would be fine. All your power is outside of you. So, okay, is there any way in which I could be maybe doing this same energy? Is that inside of me? Because a lot of times what you'll find is when you can use that as a reflection, and if it's not the same energy, maybe the way he's doing it is echoing an early on dynamic from childhood. How can you move in a new way? Because childhood is powerless. You're just like, well, I guess I'll wait till I'm in my teens to get out of here because I'm stuck until then. So that powerless feeling, which is also in this book, he talks about it as tonic immobility. So if you were in a home where you felt threatened and, not getting connection, physical threat, verbal, whatever, you felt like on edge, then you have that energy and you can't leave, right? You have fear and then you're stuck. So you basically just play dead. But you have this powerlessness, this hopelessness, and it becomes chronic. And that's how you live life. And I'm not saying necessarily that's how your life is, Judy, but just trying to understand these dynamics and apply what resonates and leave the rest. I'm glad that helps. Okay, so for Allie, okay, this is where I had started because I was like, oh, well, let's do a cinnamon swirl hug. Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that the echo, that critical, how dare you, shaming of your little girl, that's not you, that's your mom. And so one thing I would say is just recognize it. Those things you tell yourself, is that what she would say? And if you can translate it to her voice, that can help you create space. Again, you just want a little space so you can see you in that. It's not you. Conquering your critical inner voice is, oh man, I'm just getting to this. She mocked me, especially about my appearance. My sister was very slim and dressed elegant. So I don't know. I'm gonna put it on the table. You don't have to take it, but what I'm hearing is that your mom was projecting onto you her own way she felt about herself. So she saw your sister compared and then projected her own pain, her own views of herself on herself. And I would ask, was your grandma critical about your mom's appearance? And that's not your shit. But if you can just say, wow, my mom just projected all that shit onto me. That wasn't me. I was beautiful. You can start to own that about you and be like, come on, come here, sweet little Allie. You're beautiful. You're wonderful. You're your own shape, your own wonder. You're not your sister. Your sister's great and you're great too. Both. They're not to compete with each other. But as a little kid, you're like, I'm doing it wrong. Like, what? So that can be very hard and it's not true about you. So I would ask you to start thinking, like, wow, okay, did my mom have body issues? And also, too, oh, thank you, Joe. I really appreciate that. Um, but asking, yeah, just starting to like sit with yourself because there can be a lot of sadness there, just like, man, I needed more from her. I needed connection. I needed support. And I didn't get that. And that's sad. And she was mean. And that really hurt me. And that's not true about me. So, yeah, ask me some more questions if you want more of that. But that can be a lot of work. And also, I think it's called The Mother Wound, is the Instagram account. She has a lot of different things about mother wounds, right? Of body appearance and different things like that, that can really help because sometimes I read it and I'm like, okay, I feel very seen, but it also is relieving knowing that this is not just me in the universe experiencing this alone, that this is a energetic pattern, and that means that I can break out of it. I can heal this, I can transmute it, and it can be part of my past, and you can transmute that into wisdom. Okay. Yeah, so Judy, I would just, it can be uncomfortable and you might be angry at like, Joe, man. Oh, okay, I can see I'm doing that thing. Okay, ugh. That's fine. Like I do that where I'm like, God, this is so annoying. Can I just get a break a little bit? Or like, oh, I can see how I'm doing that. But when you own it in yourself, it does not bother you out there. And that's relieving. Um, okay, Abby, what are great beliefs for trusting how life unfolds instead of avoiding life, especially relationships? I mean, great answer. How do you trust life? I think for me, emotionally, thinking about maybe like nothing in my life really went exactly as I planned it. And and the one thing I'm learning recently is like, oh, the things that make me feel really uncomfortable that I don't necessarily want to do, those are the things that I need to do. And the reason they feel uncomfortable is because they're unfamiliar. And so my thing is, oh, do the thing that's comfortable, right? And then it's like, oh, well, then I'm going to experience the same things. But how life unfolds, I'm not like some just person, just like, oh, I hope it goes good. It's like, how can I learn to trust myself? I think, and the other thing too is if you were raised in a religious environment, sometimes that God view, depending on what it was like, and I'm not hating on religions, we can have a whole other discussion about that, but just looking at patterns, for the way I was, I was gonna say viewed, but the way I was raised, it's like, okay, God's, you're going to get judgment. It's like, you better be good. Don't sin, don't do all these things. So it was like kind of fearful. So unconsciously, you'll put that right on the universe or life. Okay, I got to be good. Oh God, I didn't do that thing. Something bad's going to happen. So just starting to be aware of some of the influences that you were exposed to that could have, unconsciously to you right now could be distorting that, right? As opposed to like, wow, look around. There's life everywhere. There's abundance everywhere. The universe is always finding ways. And every expression, like, go look at trees. No one tree is growing the same, even if they're the same species. The baby seed is not looking at the parents and saying, hey, how do I grow? It goes deep with its roots. The deeper it goes into the shadows, we'll say, the stronger it is. And it also grows to the light simultaneously. The more light, the more roots, and the stronger it's going to be. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the way I think about it. Oh, okay, I'm now getting to your message, Joe. Oh, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Okay, Judy, there is an underlying fear that I'll never be able to tell him those things, and maybe it's really because I want to feel superior. Yes, it's annoying. Let it be. Like, it's totally fine. You don't have to be like, Oh, it feels so good. Yeah, I'm just trying to be superior. Like it can be like, I'm annoyed that that's what I'm doing, and I'm frustrated, and this is annoying, and fine, whatever. Like you're on your own path. Like I can be annoyed by different things of like, oh, be real with yourself. Allow yourself to experience it in your own unique way and be real with yourself. You don't have to pretend to be, oh, this is so wonderful when you're like, I would like to file a complaint. But most of the time, it's going to go back to me when I think that. So, yeah. But amazing job. I wish I could like heart this because you being like, yeah, I want to feel superior. Fine. Okay. But even that could feel a little relieving. So, just saying. Um, I feel you, D Jane, about worthiness after narcissistic partner. I mean, again, going back to the familiarity and like worthiness of it, of like not about them and their treatment, but wow, like learning how to nurture yourself more. And there's a lot of different, and also really understanding the dynamics of self abandonment because in the last relationship I had before I really got real with myself, it was a narcissistic abuse, like physically abusive relationship where it was just like, I mean, there was like shame of like, how could I, like, how is this something I got myself into? Or like, how did this happen was really the thing. And like, I'm physically very strong. So like, then that was a whole other thing of like, almost like a self blame. Like, how could I have allowed it to happen physically? And it's a lot of stuff that goes on and it doesn't make it true. And there's a lot of, yeah, I would just, worthiness after that. I would go to the roots because that relationship for you, the narcissistic, it's like, okay, how can I see myself more in this? And for me, it was, how did I become so desperate and distorted that I didn't offer worth, that I would open myself up and chase this person? That's what it was for me, so that maybe they would love me. And it was because I lost myself. To the degree I was in that relationship was the degree in which I was disconnected from myself. So if anything, just focus back on you. I would meditation. If you heart coherence meditations, I have a couple on the channel, but that can really help you be in your body. You love yourself, and maybe one thing would be one. I don't know what it feels comfortable, but maybe once a week, you just pick something about yourself and you spend 5 minutes like appreciating that. Like for me, I'm really appreciative that I'm so persistent. Even when I don't know what's happening and I don't know how to do it, I just keep trying and going. And I appreciate that about me. And for me, it felt like uncomfortable. Like I almost felt ashamed when I do that, because it's like, no, 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 that's selfish, or I shouldn't do that. No, 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 I need it from somebody outside of me. So just like starting to like, just getting a sledgehammer and lightly shattering the walls of your identity and how you're supposed to be treated, just subtle. Okay, man, we have been chatting it up. This has been so wonderful. What a great hiya back to connection. Okay, when we fall out of the state that affects our manifestation, takes us back a few steps. If most of the time we are neutral or at peace, no, I mean, it's going to be your dominant. And I just realized too, Pinky, I don't think I finished answering your question, or not Pinky. No, it was Pinky. Okay, I'll get back to that in just a second. Um, no, this is not, again, too, this could go back, Carolina, about that, like, oh, I got to be perfect. If I slip up a little bit, everything's going to go awry. It's going to be the dominant. So if you're mostly going this way and you have just a slight, you're still here, it's going to take consistent, slip. You're human. You're going to slip. That's okay. Can you learn from that slip? Can you understand yourself more on why those ideas are coming up? Can you go deeper and uproot that belief? And learning that those slip ups can actually be catalysts, we'll say, to power boost you past what you've known before, because oh, something's catching. Okay, what is, oh, this, rather than nope, no, 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 get away from me. I'm here. And it's like if they get one of those giant balloons, they get those giant rubber bands and put it around your hips, and you're trying to run, the more you push out, the more you're going to get ripped back. So really honoring, okay, what is it's coming up? I'm a few steps back here. I've slipped up. What's going on? But it's not going to be one thought, one feeling, and then everything goes out of whack. It's going to be the dominant. Yeah. So Allie, there you go. So if you can start to see that, unfortunately, your mom was talking to herself, and as a kid, you thought that you didn't understand, and you thought she was talking to you, and that it was real what she was comparing, but that comes from a pained, a hurt adult who was emotionally immature in that moment. And again, the book, Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents, really can help. But yeah, so again, one thing, it's like, as a little kid, putting up a mirror, and realizing you were just there and you needed her, but she was in another space. But I say mirror, like if you're talking to me and I put up a mirror, well, you're seeing yourself in that mirror, and that's really what was going on. And unfortunately, it made you, understandably so, like, yeah, you're like, okay, why? Okay, I guess that's true, because you know better. And that's why in my videos I say, they can take care of the house, they can get money, they drive cars, I know all the answers, we'll say, about things that you don't know, because you've got barely on earth. So when they do these things that come from their past, it's so confusing. And then we carry these things thinking they're our truth, when really your mom's judgment of herself, she projected onto you. And, that caused a hurt in you, obviously, and distortion within yourself. But now you can see it through today's eyes and look back and be like, wow, maybe you're mad. You're like, what the hell? Like, that's, whatever you want to feel about it. Or maybe you're like, wow, she was really in a bad place and I deserve more. Whatever that is, be honest with yourself. And that is the first step to healing and transmuting, alchemizing that energy. Yeah, we are humans, and just got to embrace all of it. Okay, so Pinky, I want to answer your question before I forget. Where was it? Oh yeah, why do I feel the urge? I don't even remember if I connected all of that, but the wheels are starting to fall off my mind. The wheels are falling off. I can feel it. I thought I was not talking before. Now I'm like, blah. Yeah. So in terms of the proving, it's. Oh, I do remember talking about this a little bit, where I was talking about emotionally echolocating through other people, which comes, in my opinion, from a childhood dynamic, and getting stuck that I'm not okay unless this person accepts me or understands me. And I have to work and fight. And when they understand me, then I'm safe. But doing that, you leave yourself a self-abandonment to connect through them to understand. But in the whole thing, you start by leaving yourself, which is what you're trying to avoid. So when you can see it now that you don't need to do that, that staying with yourself is how to stay safe, it can dramatically reduce the urge. Because again, I got to prove myself, because I got to be accepted. If I'm not accepted, I'm going to be abandoned, and then I'm going to be all alone, horrible stuff. So when you're proving, I think that comes from a place of trying to connect. But understanding why you have to prove, or, just starting to see that more and shifting in the moment is going to be really helpful. Let's see. Forgiving parents is really difficult. I once heard, if you think about a person and don't feel neutral, even warm, you probably hold resentment at them, and that extracting all these golden nuggets out of that experience really helps to forgive. As long as you didn't learn from the experience or turn into wisdom, it's hard to fully forgive. Well, I mean, the wisdom could be just simply more awareness about yourself right now, what we've been talking about. And even like, oh, I need to forgive them. That's not even an energy that I think you need to deal with. You're not there yet if you're not there. So focusing on, I'm not forgiving you. Oh, I'm holding resentment. Your energy is not with you. What do you need? Judy, what do you need to feel safe? What do you need to feel connected? What do you need to get your needs met? Focusing on that, focusing on that, focusing on that. Because when you're full in yourself and you feel safe and you're getting your needs met, it will be much more easy to just see and be other, not be other people, but see and yeah, like release. But in the moment right now, if you're still in neutral and you're like, okay, forgive, it's like if you're on step, I won't even say steps because I don't want to put any kind of like you need to be here that you're in any place, but just understanding that more, that that's not something you need to think about. I think that that's a natural byproduct of your own evolution, and just keep focusing on you, focusing on you, focusing on you, and everything else will naturally sort its way out, is how I feel. Oh, well, welcome, Carolina. This is the first one in a while, and there'll be more. And again, I'll probably, and I'm asking y'all, I've been asking a lot more questions because, like I said, I'm trying to make the best videos I can to answer all your questions and to help y'all get the experience and shift out of these really, for me, I guess I resonate with like before all this stuff, like it was really hard and painful. And my life, the control was always outside of me. So I was kind of like chasing other things and it was not very fun. Oh, that's good. Thank you so much for that, Carolina. Okay. All right. So I think we're going to wrap it up. I think this is actually our longest, I was going to say meditation, but it's not a meditation. This is our longest live as well. So congratulations, everybody. We are already setting records. Look at us go. It's just the first of a lot of good things. So, but anyway, yeah, I think that, oh my gosh, the teddy bears, those are so cute. I don't even think I knew that you could do that on here. Those are adorable. But anyway, well, I love you all. I'm very thankful for you being here and for you chatting and sharing. I think that, it takes practice to feel safe to share and, also to feel seen. Because, yeah, that's not, I think, an experience that is can necessarily, it wasn't a natural thing for me. So practicing that capacity in this environment, I think, is really powerful. So I love y'all. Have a new video for y'all this week. And yeah, I guess I will see y'all in the chats and soon another live stream. But take care. Have a good evening or morning or Sunday or whatever it is where y'all are. And I will talk to y'all soon. Bye.